Your culture is a mirror. Stop ignoring the reflection. I love this quote from Byron Katie. When I argue with reality, I lose, but only 100% of the time. So what is reality telling you? If your team isn't improving, they're reflecting you. Every team is running a loop, and that loop is either reinforcing excellence or it's repeating mediocrity. And the only question is, are you listening to the loop or are you just responding to the symptoms? The only time we suffer is when we deeply believe a thought that argues with what is. I'm Chris Hunsaker, and this is the Dealership War Room. 7 minutes of leadership fire, built daily, fueled intentionally, and delivered relentlessly. So today, let's decode that loop. Let me take you inside a conversation I had with a floor manager last month. He was so frustrated the same two salespeople kept showing up late for the Saturday shift. 8:52, they're like rolling in with their phone in one hand and a Red Bull in another. He'd talked to them, he'd reminded them, and finally, he just lost it. He blew up because they were late again. So when he finished explaining all of his frustration, I asked him this question: what did you do the first time they were late? And he said, honestly, Chris, I let it slide. They were top performers and I didn't want to make it a thing. I nodded, but that was the thing. Silence is feedback. And in leadership, what you don't address, you endorse. Here's another one of those uncomfortable truths. You and I tolerate so much mediocrity. We endorse so much mediocrity because we don't want to spin the team out. We don't want to get everybody upset or knock them off track. And it's true that elite performers, top performers, always get special privileges. Top performers always earn certain flexibility in schedule, in time, and in any number of things. I've been a top performer in many organizations, and I always expected and sometimes even demanded it because I knew I was a top performer and I knew I could put up the numbers. But here's the challenge. When you're not a high performer anymore, when you're not currently a high performer, but you see yourself as a top performer, you're what I call an aging beauty queen. Were you beautiful? Yes, 25 years ago, you really were. But now, you're just older and not nearly as beautiful. It's what Bruce Springsteen talked about in his song Glory Days, right? It's passed you by. Your culture is not random. It's the direct result of your feedback loop. So let's build that out. So here's the velocity feedback loop system. And let's take a look at these 5 elements, each one, and how this loop will absolutely guarantee continued excellence or continued mediocrity. 5 elements, let's look at each one. Number 1 is behavior. What is actually happening on the floor? Number 2 is KPI response. What's the hard data reflecting that behavior on the floor? Number 3 is the cultural echo. What does your team do in response or in reaction to the behaviors they're seeing on the floor? And then number 4, what is your leadership signal? In other words, what do you do about that behavior? Do you respond to it? Do you reinforce it? Do you ignore it? Or do you redirect it? And then finally, 5 is adjustment. What's the next action you're going to take based on the feedback from the loop? How are you going to adjust? What are you going to do next? That is the velocity feedback loop, and it is running 24/7. And if you do not design it intentionally, it becomes reactive, emotional, delayed, and weak. Most leaders think their problem is a people problem. No, it's not. It's a feedback lag problem. You wait too long, you send mixed signals, and you confuse being nice with just being inconsistent. So let's dive into the reality of what is. The longer the lag in your feedback, the louder the drift in your culture. The shorter and tighter the loop, the more sharp your team gets. Want a culture of excellence? Start by rewarding the right things fast. If there was one skill I could just magically give to leaders that I coach, it would be the ability to catch people doing things right, quickly, instantly, and with intensity. So often, if you go by someone and they follow through on the training, they're doing what you asked them to do, they're doing exactly the right thing, it's a kind of a nod, like, okay, if anything, but if it, yeah, okay, appreciate, good job. But we tend to recognize and reward at a level 5, and we correct and coach at a level 9. So when there's a mess up or a screw up, it's like, boom, level 9 response. But when it's good and going well, it's like a, yeah, okay, good job. The second thing to creating a culture of excellence is correct, clean, without emotional blowups. I have said this for years, that most people, teenagers are my best example, they do not lack a knowledge of parental values. They lack a commitment to parental values. And parents think that somehow, if they just keep yelling it and yell it louder or yell it more often or yell it more intensely, one day they're going to yell so loud that their teenager is going to go, oh my, Dad, thank you. I get it. Yeah, I need to clean my room. Let me go take care of that right now. That is never going to happen. But here's what does happen. The teenagers know if they can act dumb enough, long enough, then you are going to get so mad and angry as a parent that the focus becomes your anger and not their behavior, and they own you. Now, here's the deal. Most employees in the dealership are just very large teenagers. Third element, to have a culture of excellence, adjust in real time. When you're moving through the day, when you're absolutely on point, think about your best sales days, whether it's on the service drive or it's on the sales floor. You're working 2 or 3 deals, you're moving, there's 8 or 9 customers in the showroom, and you just go from thing to thing. You're just constantly adjusting on the fly. That is the best feeling. That's what we love about this business. And that is what great leadership is. That when you're catching people doing things right, when you're quickly correcting, but without the emotion and the anger, and then you're constantly adjusting to what you're seeing. So you're always pulling people back to reinforcing that culture of excellence and destroying that repeating mediocrity. That's how you win the culture war. That's how you win the culture game. And I would ask you, burn this into your brain. Feedback that changes behavior always beats feedback that vents frustration. Now remember, one of the core elements of the velocity framework is those 3 wars. And one of the first war is you got to win the internal war. And whenever I present this information to people, here's the internal war that's going on. I know what you're thinking. I've said it a dozen times. They should know. If I bring it up again, I'll look weak. No, if you don't bring it up again, you'll look weak because they are simply trying to outlast you like they've done with every other authority figure in their life. Every parent, teacher, coach, priest they've ever had, they have decided if they act dumb enough, long enough, you will give up on them. And they break you from your commitment to excellence and make you accept their commitment to mediocrity. Great feedback requires you to close the loop. You build your strength by closing the loop. The strength to stay focused, the strength to not be broken, the strength to demand excellence and not accept someone else's mediocrity. So let's turn insight into action. And this is simple. I want you to decide what's one behavior that your team is repeating. And then ask yourself, what's the KPI tied to it? What's the cultural echo that it's creating? What leadership response have you given or failed to give? And then what micro adjustments do you need to start making to bring this back on track and move it forward? It could be a quick one-on-one. It could be some public praise. It could be a new public scoreboard or a 90-second huddle reset. But whatever it is, do not stay silent and do not yell. Find that Yoda spot where you're clear, immovable, and consistent. Because culture isn't created by good intentions. Culture is created by repeated behavior. Culture is repetition. For now, own your culture, own your loop. Come back and start looking at those 5 things, the behaviors, the KPIs, the cultural echo, your leadership response, and then your adjustments, and really get dialed in. Clean your loop, execute your feedback, and I'll see you tomorrow in the Dealership War Room.